Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Magical Coffee Hour. We are going to start doing these Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, so you're going to get to be seeing a bit more of me. Saeed, good to see you. Hope you are doing well. Um, so this is going to be our first one on the new schedule. Hopefully, we get some people in here. I know with it being the new schedule, we may see slightly fewer as people gravitate in or whatnot. We are live here and on Rumble, so if you're on either platform, be sure to say hi. We always love to know you're watching. Um, that being said, just so we go ahead and cover this. We are trying to get to 50 average active supporters over on our locals community. So if you are interested in supporting the work we do and getting access to the supporter only content over at locals, check out the link below for the Working Dragon Mystic Layer community and pop over there and show your support that way. Also, super chats are open on YouTube. I think Rumble might have a tipping. I don't know for sure on that. I'd have to double check. But any tips, super chats, whatever you want to call it, of $5 or more will always get you entered into spell working for prosperity, well-being, health, and good luck that I do for the community every Monday. Okay, got that covered. Got that. Also, be sure to check us out over at workingdragonmystic.com. You can find the online school, you can find the community, all those little things over there as well. Um, Another thing I was told I should remind people about, we are having a Halloween costume contest. To enter that, just join the locals community. It can be as a free member. Members of the locals community have access to a Discord. Your Discord name has to match the locals name. And you can enter your photo and see the rules for the costume contest over there on Discord. The admin will, of course, be judging it. And even funner, the admin are having a contest which you all will be voting on to decide the winner. I won't be competing. I'll be buying the prize for the admin as our opportunity to finally give back to them. So, yes, we look forward to seeing your all's Halloween costumes. Check out the different categories and everything while you're there. And we are giving away plaques to the winners. So they will be handcrafted plaques. Bornoldus himself there in chat is actually hand making those himself. And those will be awarded to the winners of each category. So there you go. Now that that's out of the way, let's get down to business, shall we? All right. Now, as you probably saw, we do actually have a topic today we want to talk about. I will open it to the floor to random questions as always, but I want to talk about this a little bit because this is a question I have been getting a few emails on. And it popped up, I want to say it was after live stream this weekend. And that is, how are you supposed, they didn't actually define it. They just said, what are you supposed to do if you have to work long hours to survive? They didn't give me a context of, are they talking about working on self-mastery? Are they working on a metaphysical practice? They didn't give me context to that. However, I've decided to go ahead and touch on this because this is kind of a big deal, right? And I do remember, like there was a time, well, remember nothing. And you talk to the admin, they'll actually wonder when I sleep. And that's a fair question, to be honest with you. But I remember back when, honestly, I was working 16, 18 hours trying to make ends meet. And it was around the same time I was beginning to study magic and everything and start taking it seriously and starting to apply it. And it's exhausting. It really is. I mean, what are you supposed to do? A lot of people really get to the point where they feel it's pointless. And I personally, I took the time to sit and talk with a friend of mine. And he gave me a perspective on it first before we got to talking about magical practices. And he's like, well, Drake, let's look at it this way. You love homesteading and survival and stuff like that. And I was like, absolutely. He's like, all right. So let's take and say health issues will never be an issue. Mechanical breaks will never be an issue. All right. Those are never going to be an issue for you ever again. and you're going to have property to raise food. You're going to have property to raise cattle. So you're going to have water. Droughts aren't going to be an issue. I was like, okay. He's like, how often do you think you would get days off on that homestead? And I was like, well, in truth, I'm not going to, because um, you got to get up, you got to maintain the garden, you got to maintain the cattle, you got to. He's like, exactly. He's like, now let's shift that same thought process to what you're doing in life. And that was a way at that age, in truth, I had never, ever, ever looked at it. Yes, I'm punching a clock. Yes, I'm going to do something. But at the end of the day, human survival, if you take modern conveniences away, 16, 18 hours ain't a long day. And, don't get me wrong, I was sore, I was exhausted, I was tired. Anyone would be, right? So he was right. That was not a good, meaty reason to give up. So from that point, he then asked, all right, so we know this. So what would your goals be? He's like, what are your goals? What do you want to do? And are you being honest about those? And in truth, I was having some issues because, first off, there was research, definitely doing a lot of research, but I did have goals. And one of those goals was I needed flipping more money, because at this point in time, I was working crazy hours. And I was still coming up in the red. Like, we were literally robbing Peter to pay Paul, and we were just scraping by. That's just what we were doing. But we were making it barely. So with the new perspective that he had showed me, which wasn't a wrong perspective, it was just I was looking at it as, I needed more time for that. Ain't going to work. Okay, there we go. I needed more time and everything would be fine. And that really wasn't the truth. Every person on this planet has the exact same amount of time. We got 24 hours in the day, 52 weeks a year. And in all truth, if we sit down and we figure out where we're spending our time, I mean, even today in my life, I can find places where I would actually say I'm wasting time, full on wasting time. I've wasted entire days and weeks on a video game sometimes. So, there are those things. And then, and I was like, well, I'm needing like 2 or 3 hours in a day in order to do these rituals and the spell work in order to reach these goals. And his first question to me, as a magician who practices his entire life, had asked, why do you need that much time? Well, this book, he's like, you don't need that. He's like, you might like that. It might be beneficial, but you don't need that. And he was really one of the first people to really help me break it down and start looking into some of these things. And, what do you need? How do you do it? How can you do it? And if you really look at it, he challenged me to figure out, to make it work in the time I had. And, he's like, you need 5 or 10 minutes to do a spell, tops. He's like, meditation, you can do it anywhere you want. He's like, break out of the constraining shackles of you must have this in order to be an effective magician, because that's not the case. He's like, you see it in all the modern books, but that's not the case. And I was like, all right, well, let's take a look at that. So I knew that when I got off work, I would come home, and anything that I needed to get done, whether it's throw laundry in or whatnot, I had to do that before I made dinner and sat down. Because once I sat down, my joints are going to lock up. That's just how that was, right? So what I did was I did those things, and then I did a meditation and spell working, made dinner. I followed the same routine. I just used 10 minutes to a meditation or spell work before I made dinner. In the morning, same routine. I get up, I start my coffee, I have my coffee, I get moving, I shower, I get out the door. I pretty much wake up and get out the door. All I did was squeeze in a 10-minute period And that period that I squeezed in there was literally I'd set the coffee pot, hit the button to go, and I'd go do my spell work. And when spell working was over, I grabbed my coffee and did the rest of my morning. Okay. I did my grounding, my shielding, everything I needed to do, out the door at work. And at work, if I had a 15-minute break, theoretically you get 2 15s is what they said. Rarely did I. But if I got a 15-minute break, I spent it meditating. I spent it calmly refocusing and recentering myself and doing some grounding, some centering to refocus myself. That's what I spent my 15-minute break on. And then back to work. And then on my lunch, I would grab whatever it was I brought to eat or whatever or grab something to eat if I was picking something up while I was there. I'd eat my food. And unless I'm talking to a friend or something and relaxing, chatting with them, I would do another meditation. That's what I would do after I was done eating. And I would set an alarm on my watch at the time because my phone didn't have bells and whistles and stuff like that on it back then. I know some of you can't imagine a day where we didn't have computers in our pocket, but that was the reality for us back then. And I would set a little beepy alarm on my phone or on my watch, and I'd start meditating. When it beeped, I got up, went back to work. So I was squeezing a lot, and I do mean a lot of practice in a life where I didn't really have the time to do it. So it is possible. Now, I am focusing on a lot, not only in developing my practice at that time, but I was also focusing on developing my financial situation. Because there was part of me that thought, if I just focus on my finances, eventually it's going to get to where I just have all the free time in the world. That was a little delulu, not going to lie. That was slightly delulu because no matter what we're doing, even if I get to my cabin in the mountains off the grid, I'm going to be working from morning to night just to, maintain the garden, maintain the livestock, do the butchering, do the breaking down of the critters, storing it, cooking the firewood, all those things. You're still going to be working. So those are some things I would do. And honestly, that was how I did it. I would schedule it. First thing off, remember, you don't need hours. 5 to 10 minutes for spell work is sufficient. Take a look at the prosperity spell on the YouTube channel. That is literally the spell I was using. And that's a 5-10 minute focused spell work. And it entirely changed my life. So you can find that practice and you can squeeze that in there if you want to. Don't use your work as an excuse. We all work our asses off. We all do. I know plenty of people, even here at this channel right now, who are still working 16, 18 hours a day, busting their hump to take care of their family, and they still manage to find time to practice. They still manage to use their day offs to relax in some manner. Some people, like me, don't use their days off to relax. They use their days off to do other projects or other things that they want. And I did that back then too. I would use what days off I had, and I'd use it to either try and find a way to make more money or work on a long-term project and just lose my day in it. Very typical. All right, let's look at the chat, see who's here. See, good to see you, Born. Welcome. Good to see you. And thank you for working on those plaques. Scrimps Ahoy, good to see you. Kama, good to see you. Seti, good to see you. I get chronically ill from pushing too hard. I wish people to realize that before they are forced to stop. Yeah, I mean, there is a point of pushing too hard. There is a matter of it. And, sometimes it does get tricky. I would say if you're going to push, do so while you're young. That's one thing I would encourage. Like, I am glad I did all the things I did when I was young. I wished I had been better with my money, and I wish we had some of the things that are available now, because I'd be far better off if we had the tools we have now. It would have made me get more out of the work I put in. But self-care and rest is important. And one of the things that I do regret from back then is there were times where I'd come home from a 16, 18-hour shift and I wouldn't sleep because I would turn on a video game or something, and I would prioritize a video game of all the dumbass things or reading a book that doesn't add anything doesn't build me up, doesn't improve me in any way over actual healthy sleep, right? And you can try the BS excuses, I'm relaxing, it's my quality time, it's self care. If you're foregoing sleep, healthy sleep that you need for your so called self care, you started by shooting your self care in the head. You really did. It's not self care. It's an excuse. Um, those instances I regret. Um, but the instances of like taking one of my day offs and using that for a video game or to read, which I love to read, still do. Those I don't mind because those days I prioritized for that. But I do wish I took sleep a bit more important, which I did not. Mathis, good evening, Drake. Glad remembered the new schedule. I'm glad you all remembered the new schedule too. I'll be honest, I kind of worried no one would show up because of it. And we got a super chat in here from Pipe Smoking Heathen. Mugs up to you, Heathen. Thank you for the super chat. The power of scheduling is super underrated, in my opinion. I'm still trying to learn and grow. Yes, it is. And I did a workshop on schedules, which should still be viewable for replay for supporters. So if you are a supporter at Locals, go check out the playlist and look for one. I did talking about how I do my schedules and planning. It was a fun one. I had a lot of compliments on that one. Vitke, good to see you as well. Silva, good evening, Drake. Good evening to you as well. Emanuele Silva, maybe? I'm bad with names. If I mispronounce it, I do apologize. Immortal, good to see you as well. Let's see. Needed some rambling after burning the crap out of myself. LOL, working at this time now. Yep. Immortal, you're one of the guys I was thinking about when it comes to working your ass off. You and I are kindred spirits in the fact that we don't know how to stop. And yeah, those kitchen burns, mate, those suck. I remember my time in a commercial kitchen. I got plenty of burns. I think every chef I know has that one burn, and you'll know the one I'm talking about. It's usually somewhere here on their wrist. It's like up here on the side, but it's usually like right here where they burn the living piss out of themselves from the rim of a hot skillet. You know the one I'm talking about. It's usually long, it blisters, and then it leaves that nice long scar right there. Most chefs I know have that one. I tattooed over mine. Fry basket. Yep. Either the skillet or the fry basket. Mm-hmm. See? I'm with you. Let's see. Also, if you do a lot, it's okay to have a nap to boost your productivity. Just don't do the whole day. That is true. There is some actually good things to napping. The one thing with napping I will talk about is make sure the nap is going to help you. And I say that because I got one friend, the dude can like wolf nap throughout the day. He can grab a fast 10, 15-minute nap. Boom, he's good to go. Rock and roll. I can't fall asleep in 10 to 15 minutes. I can't. Never have been able to. It's just not my gift, right? So anytime I take a nap, regardless, it really just makes me worse. So I'm one of those people, napping makes me worse. But this is where self-knowledge comes in also, people. Take time to learn yourself. Try it out. I tried it out. I found out it did not work for me. It made me a crabby son of a bitch. And I'm already relatively grumpy. So probably making me grumpier is usually not a good idea. But at the same time, if you are one of these people that can grab a nap and do better, great. Like my wife, when she can nap, naps help her. Notice I said when she can nap, because there's plenty of times she can't sleep, she can't nap, she can't lay down. And in those cases, she just tries to power through. Maybe it's our generation, I don't know. But for me, naps just make me worse. Like I can go and be up for 48 hours and I can have something I have to do, whether it's go out for business, whether it's be with friends, whether it's a family event, or a wedding. And I just like, screw it, I'm not sleeping. And I just wait until the event's over and pass out. Though, to be honest, there was one particular wedding where I didn't want to be there anyway. So once the music started, I went to sleep. Point blank, straight up. Not going to lie. Don't regret it. They said I had to be there. They didn't say I had to be conscious. So, yeah. That's why me and the Fae get along a little bit, because I do keep my word. You just might want to pay attention to what I say. We always got room for scars. Like I got an entire group of friends. You can't get us together without scar stories. Hell, the admin team have gotten me started on scar stories before up in the admin section over at the Discord. So some of you quite know a few of them. You can always try to do something that's low energy and still be productive. When I make rings, I go from inlaying everything to sanding to keep productivity up. Gives my hands sort of a break, LOL. And, that's another great example of prioritizing your time and using your time wisely, right? And that's great ways to do it. You can do that with the same thing with meditations and spell workings and rituals. If I'm really short on time, I will knock out a Dragon's Flame ritual in 5 to 10 minutes, and I'll save the meditation for my day when I'm doing things I have to do, where I can use movement meditation to do the same thing. I'll just do the movement meditations and whatnot. Or if it's like a focused meditation where I don't want to do movement meditation for some reason, I will do it at a point during the day where I have a moment to sit down and breathe. Whether it's taking a break from the screen, because God knows I have to look at freaking monitors all the time. So it's one of those things where I need a screen break. I'll do a meditation. I will do meditations in the shower. Person's got a shower, so I jump in the shower and do meditations. I will find time. TMI, I'll be honest, I've had schedules booked so tight when I needed to do a meditation. Only free time I had was the crapper. Guess where my meditation was? Right in there in the crapper. You got to do what you got to do. But yeah, staggering your time so that you know what's going to take the most time and the most effort. And so that as your day goes on, you can do the lower energy things later. That's a great way to do it as well. All right. So those are just some great examples I wanted to give you all. That don't think that just because you're working 12, 16-hour days or hours a day, that you can't do a practice. You can't work towards self-mastery. You can't work toward these things. Look at your schedule. Look at your time. How are you managing the time you do have, right? Consider those things. And I would agree that there's a thing with the way our society and our culture has gotten up with about how we work and why we work and stuff like that. Because at least my generation, we were taught how to work for money, to put money to work for us, to free up more time so we do things that we want to ourselves. I don't see anyone ever being taught that anymore. And that really saddens me. And as much as I am not the conspiracy guy, I am getting to a point where more and more about the way we see things going, it's harder and harder to say that whatever group is currently in charge of wherever you're at, they might have a more vested interest in their pocketbook than they give a rat's ass about the people they're supposed to represent. It is a very, very real smack in the face. But it is one of those things that, you do need to consider. That's why I'm a big proponent in self-mastery, self-empowerment, self-sufficiency, not relying on someone else to do it for me. Let's see. I just started 90-minute nap and gradually made it shorter because of that same problem. I never tried the 90-minute nap shorter thing. Might be something. But I'll be honest with you, at this point, like due to my insomnia and everything over the years, I've kind of got my sleep process locked in. I've got energy through the whole freaking day. And even if I have to extend my day, my energy holds up. And when I do sleep, I finally sleep. The insomnia is gone. So at least at this time, I don't want to tinker with naps because I don't want to screw it up and get that insomnia problem back. I really don't. So I'll stick where I'm at. But for those who are wanting to try and learn that napping stuff, and you're not in the boat where I'm at, um, that's not a bad idea. Try doing 90-minute naps and seeing if you can shorten them to build the nap habit. Not a bad idea. I do remember an individual who wanted to try and stop sleeping 8 hours, and he wanted to do short periods of sleep, and he was doing something similar to that. I'll be honest, that did not work out well for him. He landed himself in a mental place for a little while because he was not sleeping essentially. So don't replace actual sleep with naps. I'm not going to say that. And if you are having genuine sleep issues, see a doctor. Let's see. Seti the Red, what do you think about healing magic on energy while also having a busy life? Can that overload you? Just started working with Marvis. So when it comes to healing magic on energy, so in my case, honestly, I've worked with a lot of entities. And when I was working 16, 18 hours a day for someone else, and there's times I was self-employed where 24, 48-hour work days was actually kind of normal for me. In fact, I work more now working for myself than I've ever worked in the past, just so y'all know. Working with entities for not only healing, but energy to get through the day or push through hard times, I've done it. And there were times where I wondered if that fed into my insomnia. Not going to lie, it crossed my mind. But in all honesty, looking back at my journals and stuff, the insomnia didn't happen as often around the times I was working with those entities. Not going to say it never happened. Now, we look at today, like I said, my insomnia is under control. I still work with these entities. I still do things like that, and I've not had any backlashes. So what I would recommend to that Seti is keep a record, keep a journal of your magical practice, and if you need it, how you're sleeping. One of the things I did in my magical journal, not only was I recording my workings, I was recording how I slept. Because I wanted to know if the things I was doing in life was helping my sleep, and I was wanting to be able to compare that against my working. So if I just had it all in my journal that I write in daily, it was very easy to compare, contrast the data. So for me, I haven't found any ill issues there. The magicians I know also that I usually get from helping stuff, I'll be honest with you. Most of them were emitting. As long as you're maintaining your energy or your ether well, they've never experienced anything negative. The negatives usually come from a lack of personal energy ether maintenance, in which case they have showed those. Good question, though. Great question. All right, and we're about halfway through. I think we've beat that dead horse. We might not have. If you got more questions on the topic, let me know. If you got other questions you want to talk about or rant about, by all means, let me know. Like I said, I'd open it to the general questions as always. What's up? I've been using my breaks at lunch to get my daily hailing rites in. Great thing to do. Absolutely a great time to do your hailing rites. I done a very similar thing. Still do, actually. Still do. I developed that habit when I was working at the Wally World and punching the clock. And yeah, my lunch times became very productive for me and also very relaxing. Oh my God, it was amazing. My cool skill is that I can sleep anywhere, so I can get through days on downtime, like on the bus, on the waiting lobby. Yeah, I can sleep anywhere. Like I do have weirdly like levels of sleep. It's kind of funny. My doctors have even noticed this, like when I actually had a sleep study done, or when I get EEGs and they tell you to go to sleep or whatnot. I'm actually kind of the pain in their ass because I can actually sleep and still be aware of my environment. But that being said, yeah, I can sleep anywhere. I have slept in bathtubs. I've slept on concrete. I've used a curb for a pillow. Yeah, you name it, I've slept there. I've slept in the back of an S10 pickup. And anybody who remembers the original, like what was it, 80, 90 model extended cab was a lie. It was a fibby fib fib because it was extended. And they said it had seats back there, but we all know that the seats folded down from the side and the entire width of that extended section was that. Like my foot could not fit here. And you're supposed to squeeze in there. So I kind of squeeze in there sideways and go to sleep. I've slept in some horrible places. I've put my body through the meat grinder growing up. But yeah, I have slept everywhere. So yeah, and I still maintain that I can curl up and go to sleep just about anywhere I need to. I would prefer not to, but it is a skill I maintain, which is nice. And one thing I've learned about military people too, because I'm around military so much, like those guys get really fucking creative on where to sleep. Like, hats off to them. I know one guy told me he literally would climb up and like lay between two pipes so that his butt would stop him from falling through them, but he was stretched out on the pipes and no one ever looked up, so he was able to just go up there and, you know, basically slack off. Let's see, Karma. I know the sleeps anytime freaks people out sometimes, but the doctor said it's fine as long as you're in control of it, you're sleeping and you're not falling asleep in a dangerous spot. I don't see why it freaks people out. I really don't. Like I've got so many friends that we've had to sleep in the weirdest conditions or the weirdest situations that I don't know, maybe we're just weirdos, but sleeping anywhere never freaked us out. Like there's times we'd be like, well, maybe that guy's asleep. And somebody'd be like, he's on the hood of a car. I've slept on a hood of a car. I've slept in the engine of a car. It's just like, what are you talking about? But it is. There's a lot of people. Especially more and more, like, especially since like millennial down, they're just not used to the concept of sleeping anywhere unless they're in very, like, military people still definitely develop it. But life has got cushier, very, very cushier for my generation. So that becomes more of it's something you don't see as often. Like if I visit a friend, it would be, they're like, well, I'd offer you to stay, but I ain't got no place for you to sleep. And I was like, there's a floor. Like seriously, I've the number of times I've curled up in a friend's floor with my coat and just balled it up, and that's my pillow. Heck, one of the reasons I started wearing a hat, that's a nap block right there. Now I'm napping. Amazing. See, Seti, did you find your dreams and sleeping messages become more intense the more you do in the day? Actually, I don't do a lot of dreaming. I never have. Never have. I'm not really someone who dreams. Like, it's weird too, because like I'm aware of the environment around me. I'm aware that everything's dark. I'm aware I'm asleep, but like dreams just don't happen. It is extremely, and I mean extremely, 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 extremely rare when I dream. Now there was a time when I was tinkering around with dream work specifically, and I was doing spell work and everything to increase dreams and stuff. And I was dreaming during that time. But if I leave it to my own devices, I just don't flip and dream. And yeah, it's just one of those things. Like I'm not a big dreamer. And it's at the point, like, even the entities are aware I don't dream, but they're aware that I'm aware of my surroundings. So they would try to get my attention while I'm asleep the same way they would while I'm awake, because that's going to work better. It's a weird one. Like, I had a neurologist in Virginia Beach. The dude would not shut the hell up about sleep studies. because my sleep habits just fascinated him. And it's like, dude, I'm here for epilepsy. Shut up about sleep studies. I don't give a crap. No, he wouldn't shut up. I hope I never have that neurologist again, by the way. um, I went to sleep accidentally in my astral sanctum. Hey, you can. If that happens, you're feeling a little wonky, just do a quick grounding and centering, or even get you a bite to eat or a cup of coffee. It'll straighten it right out. It's amazing. But you can feel a little wonky because that etheric, it's kind of like an etheric wobbliness. It's almost like pins and needles in your ether. It's kind of weird. But the moment you ground and center, that'll straighten it. The moment you do anything mundane or routine, whether it's shower, grab a sandwich, have a cup of coffee, that'll straighten it out too. Drake, what do you think about music and sound meditation? I freaking love them. Okay. I love them. So if you ever take my meditation course, there's an entire section in there about sound meditation. And I wish I had actually filmed me trying to get some of these sounds, like trying to record water, trying to like weirdly, the insects at night was the easiest one to get. And that was just pure accident because I'm outside chilling, having a good time. And like the cicadas and the crickets just went ballistic. And I was like, grab the camera. But the one that was the hardest was actually the fire. I wanted this crackling fire sound. I really did. I was set to get this. And we probably built like 12 different fires to try and record it before I realized, you know what? I'm going about this the wrong way. I need a pyro. And that's what I did. I called my buddy Nitro and said, Nitro, I need the biggest, flipping, hottest bonfire you can get me because I need it to make sounds. I need it cracking. I need it popping. He's like, I'll get it. And we got it. We also lost a couple microphones because he got it hot. But we got the sound. That was important. And I absolutely love sound meditation and music. I will meditate to music quite often. One thing that I love to meditate to, go to Dr. Jackson Crawford's channel, look up Cowboy Havamal. This is a reading of the Havamal from his grandfather's words. So he just, instead of straight translation, he put it in the words of his grandfather, who was like a traditional cowboy, and he reads it. I love to meditate to that reading of the Havamal because it looks at the modern world through the wisdom of the Havamal. And it's a really down-to-earth grounding meditation for me. It's just like, I love it. So I love to meditate to stuff like that in music. Now, music, I do not like to meditate to chimes. I do not like to meditate to a lot of the meditation tracks. In fact, I don't think I own any meditation tracks anymore. I will meditate to actual music. I will have Ozzy. I will have Hank Williams. I'll have Jimmy Buffett. I will have Lords of Acid. I will have AC/DC. That's the kind of music I meditate to. And it's just, what am I in the mood for? I have entire playlists built to listen to based on what I'm doing and what mood I'm in. And I have found that just queuing up a playlist that fits the mood of the meditation I'm doing works best for me. So I don't even need special playlists for meditating. I just queue it up. And if, like, there's been times I'm stressed. I know I want to relax. I know I want to have a good time. And I will queue up a D&D playlist because I have a playlist of goofy songs that I listen to while I'm prepping D&D stuff for my group. And I will totally turn that on during a meditation because that fun translates right into it there so well for me. So yeah, I love sound and music meditation. But again, I have a good connection with music. I love music. I can't sing and I can't play an instrument. My dad was, oh my God, he was sad that I couldn't. But mine and his love of magic is one of those things we really bonded over. And he could sing. He could play. He actually cut a CD. They called their bluegrass group Southern Thunder, and they cut it one CD before he passed. And I still have that CD. But like, he was a great musician, absolutely great. That was one of his true passions, no matter how dark things got in his life, music was always there to pick him up. So I do have a very good, strong connection to music, and it moves me. There is a music can move a person, right? Like I understood even as a child when I saw Blues Brothers, I understood what they were talking about, how music had a soul, how it could move people, how it held them up. Um, so I've always had a passion for music. Just can't sing or play it. Um, See, Mathis can sleep anywhere, at least sometimes when the occasion calls for it, yet can still have insomnia on normal night with a bed. Yeah, like mine's like it's weird. Like you saw, like if you would have saw the places I was sleeping, you'd have been like, how do you have insomnia if you've learned to sleep in these places? And truth be told, the best me and the doctor could figure out is I got so used to working 48 hours or 72 hours and just pushing myself beyond sleep, that eventually my body just got to the point where it's just like, all right, you don't need sleep, screw you. So once I was out of those situations and what most people would consider more of a normal life, and I had the ability to sleep whenever I wanted, I had lost the ability to go to sleep when I wanted. That was kind of the weird thing. So I've literally had to build a sleep routine. I had to go through all these little things to actually train myself to go to bed, and actually go to bed when I went to bed. You know, it was crazy. And it took, God dang, it probably took me 5 or 6 years of repeating the same process over and over before I finally started sleeping like a normal person. And I ain't giving it back up. Now don't get me wrong, I kind of hate sleep. Like I'm not one of these people like people's like I slept 12 hours. You're an idiot. I'm sorry. First off, you can't make up sleep you lost. Sorry, can't. But I will sleep enough for health, but after that I don't want to sleep. I seriously don't. There's too many wonderful things in this world. There's too much to do. The wasting it in a bed seems like the dumbest fucking thing a person can do to me. So I don't like sleep. um, let's see. Appreciate that. Which advice did you appreciate? Which one? I have said a lot. I've been talking and rambling. I love a good shamanic drumming and a bit of didgeridoo. Yes, actually, the drumming meditation sound that's in the course, in the meditation course, that's actually me. That is actually me. I didn't pay anyone to do that. Um, I actually did that one myself. And the funny part about that one, I don't know if a lot of people know this. So, I knew I wanted that drumming, like that beat. That's just something that's always been with me. That little dun 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 dun. And for whatever reason, I have found with students, not just me, but that is a really tremendously powerful meditation and trance drumming beat, whatever. I don't know where it came from. No idea. But I did have an old Native American shaman. He's like, this does work. He's like, there's something to it. You should definitely keep using it and share it. And I was like, okay, cool. But when I did the meditation course, there was no doubt in my mind I wanted that drumming there. And I'm trying all kinds of things. I'm banging on everything in the house I can find, pots and pans and skillets and even the desk. I was trying to find something because I did not have a drum. And I didn't want to buy a drum because when I looked them up, the cheapest drum I could find, because at the time I was in Virginia Beach and well, everything's overpriced. So I mean, I was looking at $1,000 for a drum for one freaking take. Because let's be honest, I'm not going to drum. I'm not a drummer. So I was just sitting there one day and I looked, and on one of the shelves, like there was this Trivial Pursuit game that my aunt-in-law got us many years ago for Christmas. And it's in one of those metal aluminum boxes, right? And I remember dropping this thing once. And I was like, no. So I got it, pulled it out, and took the lid off, emptied everything out, flipped it upside down, and I tapped it. And it got a good sound. I was like, no. So I turned on the mic, everything, and I started dun, 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 dun. And loaded that in the computer, hit playback, and I was like, oh my God, it freaking worked. So that audio was actually recorded on a metal Trivial Pursuit game box. Redneck solutions, people, they work. Are we talking 7 hours or less? Honestly, I'm not going to tell you how much to sleep and what's actually healthy. I think the average for an adult is 6 to 7 hours is what they recommend. It's not actually the standard, just 8 hours that they try to blanket for everybody. But for me, honestly, 6 to 7 hours is a long sleep. Even now, sleeping the way I do, my doctors told me if you are sleeping and you are genuinely rested when you get up and you have energy through your day, he's like, don't worry about it. Don't try to sleep more. You're doing fine. And for me, that's honestly 4 to 5 hours on average. And 6 hours is kind of long. Like, I'll be honest, I'm usually up till 1 or 2 in the morning on Saturdays. Like, I get up on Saturday around 6 a.m. and then I'm up till 1 or 2 a.m., go to bed, and I'm up by anywhere from 5 or 6 on Saturday or Sunday morning. That's just when I wake up. In truth, I haven't woke up to an alarm clock in God knows how long because I've got my sleep down dialed in. The only time I wake up to an alarm clock is if something's specifically there to interrupt my schedule in some way. Whether it be for travel or catching flights, some bullshit like that. But I consider it a real blessing after struggling for well over 10 years with insomnia. Let's see. I'm thoroughly enjoying. I'm glad you're enjoying it, Daniel. I literally am. I have a question for you. Is this reality a copy of another reality? In other words, do we actually reside in a simulation? That's actually a fair question. I'm not going to lie. There's a lot of people who might think that's silly, but here's the thing. In all my research and everything I've done and all my time in the astral and through soul travel and everything, I have no reason to believe we are a simulation. Absolutely not. In fact, I have every reason to believe we're not a simulation. Because if we was just a simulation, the other realms, the afterlife, the reason for development, the reason for ascent, the reason for growth, all these become invalid because you're just an avatar in a video game. And once the game's over, everything else is pointless, right? Like if you play Skyrim, if you play Mario, whatever it is, that character in that game, they only exist and they only matter the time you're playing that game. Once the game's over, nothing else matters. It's done, period. You can replay the game, yes, but it's still just the same schlock over and over. That's not the case with us. That is not the case with us. And because of that, I honestly cannot buy into the simulation hypothesis. I really can't. I know the hypothesis gives some people comfort because they're kind of hoping that all this craziness doesn't have any meaning because they don't want to have to get out there, live in the world, and deal with the craziness. So it meaning nothing brings them comfort because they don't want to apply themselves to the chaos that is Mother Nature, right? But no, for me personally, no one on this planet can confirm nor deny whether it's a simulation in absolute, positive, provable, 100% factual. Here it is, right? But when you ask me the question based on everything I've seen, every other magician I've talked to, their findings, everything, I have found millions of reasons we're not a simulation and not one that actually makes me think we're in a simulation. The closest thing to it being a simulation I have gotten to is how stupid humanity can be. But that in and of itself kind of breaks the simulation problem when we look at history, we look at patterns that humanity has um, repeated, while at the same time the lessons they have learned and the trials and tribulations they've overcome. And a simulation wouldn't just magically evolve the way we do necessarily. And it wouldn't also repeat the same mistake over and over, knowing that that mistake happened and knowing why it happened. See, we know why a lot of these mistakes repeat, and it deals with us literally forgetting where we came from, forgetting our history, forgetting the past, and we repeat the same mistake because we get comfortable. Kind of that whole hard times make strong people make good times make weak people make hard times. You ever heard that quote? Kind of the same cycle, which, yeah, like I said, I don't think we are. Definitely an interesting one. And it's one that my generation for sure, even millennials, I reckon you millennials probably went down this rabbit hole more than 1,000 times, because you all were around when Matrix dropped. Oh my God, when Matrix dropped, the paranoia people were having, I'm telling you what. See, I've learned something about military canine handlers is that in my country, they teach the dog the holy grail of all commands is pillow, so they use the dog ass as a makeshift pillow to sleep nicer. Actually, I've seen that with a lot of canines in the military and in the police force. A lot of people think these dogs are disposable. These dogs are every bit part of the force. They are every bit a service member or a police officer, at least here in America. You do not give the U.S. military an animal and think they're going to treat it like an animal. That animal is a part of the unit. It is every bit a soldier, a sailor, whatever. And they will break the law to protect that animal. They have done it, and they will do it again. That animal is part of the team. They do not see an animal. They see a team member, and they will show it full respect and love, and they expect it to get full respect and honors back. And it's absolutely one of the things I love. And you are correct. Yes, canines will do that. And since canines are actually pack animals and laying on top of each other is something they are accustomed to, there is a comfort that it brings the dog as well as the handler. It's pretty freaking amazing. That's one I absolutely adore dogs. I really do. In fact, if you want to see a really cool U.S. military animal story, after stream, don't do it during stream. After stream, check out Google Sergeant Reckless. He's a horse. Look at Google Sergeant Reckless. It's pretty amazing. And don't worry about bad English. I'm Southern. I butcher English probably more than you. Let's see. Researcher those interpretations. Use the background Drake just mentioned, like history and cultural background. Sorry for the bad English. No problem. No problem. Like I said, I butcher things probably more than anyone. Yep, Sergeant Seawash will be another one. Yep. Actually, funny story that my wife was stationed on a specific aircraft carrier when we were in Virginia Beach. We got restationed, right? They shipped us out of Virginia Beach. And it's like 6 months later, she's reading the Navy Times and found out that they have put a dog on this aircraft carrier. They're testing a program with having animals on carriers now. And in the photo, like the dog had not been on the carrier a month, right? It had not been a month by the time the photo was taken. And the sailors of this aircraft carrier had already gotten this dog a full flight jacket, full cranium and goggles and everything, because you know what? The dog is part of the crew. You're part of the team. Welcome to the ship, bro. And the dog has a uniform now because they gave a dog to the military. You cannot stop military members from adopting animals and treating them like human beings. You can't do it. By the way, anyone has that copy of the Navy Times, you should look at it. The dog is freaking adorable. And if my wife still has it, I may have to show you all the picture because that's freaking adorable. Uh, I love our troops. I really do. I really do. um, yeah, actually, the video I'm thinking about, Born, it's Fat Electrician who does the Sergeant Reckless video I like best. I think his name's Fat Electrician. Check Born if you can double check me on that, and that's correct. Let's send them to the right guy. But I want to say it's the Fat Electrician. Any other questions? That is correct. Thank you, Born Oldest, for confirming that for me. So if you want to see the Sergeant Reckless story, because it is inspiring. It's not just funny. It is inspiring. It really is. Go check out the Fat Electrician. Look up Sergeant Reckless. Yeah. Any other questions? We got 5 minutes before the hour. Also, be sure to give us some thumbs up if you're here. It does actually help with the algorithm. Same thing over on Rumble. If you're watching over on Rumble, give us a thumbs up. Whether it's during the live stream or you're catching the replay, the thumbs up and the likes always help. Also, if there's any topics you would like me to touch on during one of the live streams, put that in the comments below the video afterwards. That way it shows up quickly. I'm going to start actually looking at questions asked in comments for topics. And if it's a quick question, I may actually just take your question and answer it during a live stream. And hopefully tag the timestamp the live stream or tell you what point of the time live stream I answered it, if I can. But yeah, at worst case scenario, I'll let you know I plan to answer this at this live stream so that you can watch that live stream too. Any of those kind of things. I want to try and be handling things in live streams a bit more because, as you all know, I'm more articulate during a live stream than I am trying to type an answer to y'all. And again, Silva, never apologize about bad English around here. I butcher it. And I'm freaking American. Southern, but hey. Any tips on a newbie working with Marvis? Just be honest. Honestly, I've never had any issues working with Marvis. I really haven't. Be honest, be open, be willing to communicate, be willing to take the advice, be willing to ask questions, and be willing to attempt to actually build a working relationship. One of the biggest mistakes working with any entity is treating them like a wish granter or an object to be used and put away. And that's really what gets a lot of people in trouble. They will only work with an entity when they want something. They will only work with an entity for a particular spell work, and then they just want to put that entity up on the shelf and forget they ever existed. They don't treat it like a person. They don't treat it like an ally. They don't treat it like any of that. They treat it with less respect in all truth than you would treat the person at the drive-through window. And it's sad, but that we view these entities so disposable that we give them less respect than you'd give the lady at the drive-through window. So my biggest advice for any entity, and that would go for Marvis, is don't do that. Make sure you're actually open to the conversations. You're open to discussions. You're open to the advice. You're committed to following through, and treat them. Actually, try to get to know them as an individual, not just an entity to call on to put a check mark in a box, if that makes sense. Is that a paint can or fire? Oh, that's a finger. That's a number 1 finger. Okay, cool. Thanks, Elizabeth Silver. Appreciate that. See, Mathis, that's kind of how I feel. I felt super awkward when sending you an email because I don't feel like I talk naturally in messages at times. I did get your email, Mathis. I don't remember if I responded. Meant to. I'll double check that. But it read just fine to me. But then again, we might just be two blokes that don't communicate well in email. So your email made sense to me because I don't know, but it read just fine to me. So I do appreciate you for the email, mate. Um, and I will be getting back to you on that at some point. It's just been a little crazy with the switch over on the schedules and had some admin stuff we had to deal with, those kinds of things. But yeah, I will be getting back with you. And thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that. All right. Any other questions before we get ready to wrap up for the night? If not, I'm going to go and actually probably try to make dinner and relax a little. Let's see. Should come about the music. I love listening to it during meditation. I'm more into rain, but did it ever happen to you to search for a certain vibe? For me, it's Lilith. Too much time for the right track. Oh, I yeah, I would say yes, but like there's not one song, there's not one group out there that has the right vibe for anything. Like that's the problem. So my playlist and everything, when I say they're built on you know, what mood I'm in and stuff, that's generally how I guess people are using the word vibe these days. But that's why whatever I'm meditating to, like I have a freaking huge music collection. And it will differ based on what I'm feeling, how I'm feeling, what my goals are, all those things. And I will select the music according to that specifically. What are my goals? What am I feeling? You know, so I do select it largely based on vibe. Um, like even if I was to say I had a go-to specific artist, that artist wouldn't fit every scenario. Like for general basic, just sitting there to relax, maybe. But even for just relaxation, like I absolutely freaking love Jimmy Buffett. There's no question on here. I'm a parrot head. Freaking look at the thumbnails. We got Bob and Ace everywhere. Um, but there are plenty of times in my life, no matter how much I love Jimmy Buffett's music, that Jimmy Buffett is not what I want to listen to relax. And if that's the case, no matter how much Jimmy Buffett you're playing, you could actually make a playlist of my absolute favorites. It won't relax me. So I'm going to need something else. And I'm just one of those little contrary people, perhaps. But I may need Gods of War. I may need Marilyn Manson. I may need Hank Williams Jr. I may need Hank Sr. I need Jerry Clower. You know, there's a lot of artists out there. Lords of Acid. It's all over the place. I'm also a big Weird Al Yankovic fan. There's times where, you know what, some of Yankovic's work, that's exactly what you want to hear. You know, that's just what you need to hear for whatever reason. I also love me some Flogging Molly, L Storm, Dropkick Murphys. I mean, I'm all over the freaking board. The only music that I generally say I don't get into is a lot of the techno hip hop stuff. I don't really like it. It doesn't really have a feeling. It's like there's no soul to it. There's no essence in it. It's just the same regurgitated stuff. I don't get into that. Some people have said you once said you didn't care for like gangster rap. And the modern stuff, that is true, because it's just like they're just recirculating the same stuff that's been done before, unfortunately. However, if you go back to like Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre, you know, when it first started back in the day, people who were singing about what they're literally living, that had a feeling, that had a soul to it. And it's tangible. It's actually tangible to me. So I love Snoop Dogg's music. But the more modern stuff, I just can't get into it. It's just, and club music, I'm not a big club music guy. It's just, it ain't got the same vibe, I guess is the word. Well, let's try to use your word. It ain't got the same vibe. which I find interesting. So if a music can't get me to feel something or have that memory, I generally don't like it. So I'm practically everything I'm listening to, I'm looking for a vibe, if you would. Otherwise, I don't like the music. That's why some of Gaga's earlier stuff I kind of liked because there was a vibe to it. But then it got to the point where there was no vibe, there was no nothing, and it just stopped listening. But I do come from a generation where I believe music is genuinely supposed to be able to connect with the person, and it's supposed to communicate something truly, and it's supposed to be able to touch them. Um, and unfortunately, a lot of music has lost that. Sad, kind of sucks, but that's the mindset I am with music. It's got if it can't move me, if it can't get me to feel what the artist is feeling, I check out. Um, all right, everyone. I'm getting clocks thrown at me by Immortal, and I think we are tapering down, so we will go ahead and call it an evening. I will be back on Friday for another MCH. If I don't have a topic, we'll just do an open floor chit chat and see how the community's doing. We'll be live here on YouTube as well as or on Rumble. And yeah, everyone have a fantastic week. Take care. Good night.